Have you ever had that sinking feeling of being totally powerless? You want to help someone so badly, but there's this invisible wall between you because you just don't have the right words. Well, we're going to dive into a moment exactly like that. But hey, before we get started, if you enjoy stories like this one, please do me a huge favor and follow the channel and share this video. It really genuinely helps this page grow, and that lets me create more stories just for you. Okay, let's get into it.
So meet Marco. His entire world is pretty much a small cubicle, a glowing computer screen, and the voices that come through his headset all day long. He's a customer service agent. And you know what? He's actually really good at his job. And this Tuesday, well, it was shaping up to be just like any other Tuesday. A predictable rhythm. You know, beep, hello, here's my problem, here's your solution. A rhythm he had down to a science.
He had just wrapped up his 73rd call of the day. A super routine billing question, handled in less than 2 minutes. Easy. He kind of leaned back in his chair, took a sip of his coffee that went cold hours ago, and just waited for the next beep. It was all part of the pattern. Steady, predictable. But call number 74, well, it was about to shatter that pattern into a million pieces.
The familiar beep hits his ear. But the voice that came through, it was anything but familiar. It wasn't a question. It was a flood. A complete torrent of panicked, rapid-fire Spanish from a woman whose distress was so raw, so powerful, it just sliced right through the language barrier. He couldn't make out the words, but oh, he understood the sound of pure desperation perfectly.
And just like that, all his calm, cool confidence, it just evaporated. A cold, solid wall of confusion shot up between him and that voice on the line. Now, protocol is crystal clear. If there's a language barrier, you immediately transfer the call to the translation department. And his finger was right there, hovering over the button. It was the easy way out, you know? The efficient solution. But the sheer panic in her voice, it rooted him to his chair.
And then his eyes just happened to catch it. Taped to the side of his monitor was the single sheet of paper his manager had handed out months ago. Basic Spanish for customer service. He had never, not once, even glanced at it. Until right now. In this total sea of confusion, it was his only lifeline. He took a deep breath and his eyes started racing down the page, searching for something, anything.
He leaned into the microphone, the words feeling so clumsy and foreign coming out of his own mouth. How can I help you? On the other end of the line, that flood of Spanish just stopped. The silence that followed was so heavy you could feel it. But in that silence, he'd done it. He had laid the very first plank of a bridge. She heard him. She heard him trying. A tiny flicker of hope. He scanned the sheet again, his eyes landing on the next phrase. This one was a little more direct, a tool to bring some order to all this chaos. What can I help you with today? It's a subtle shift, right? He wasn't just offering help anymore. He was starting to guide the conversation, to actually create a path for them to walk on together.
And what's so cool about this is the way that phrase is built. It doesn't just ask for everything all at once. It actually creates a target. In what? Today. It gave this panicked woman a specific place to aim her story, a starting point in the middle of the storm. And she took it.
Her story started to trickle out. The words were still shaky, still laced with anxiety, but they were slower now, more deliberate. And in the middle of all these sounds he didn't recognize, Marco caught 2 words, paquete, package, and nieto, grandson. Okay, he was getting closer. He needed the next key to unlock this thing. So he asked, "What problem are you having?"
And this just perfectly shows what was really going on. Marco wasn't just, reading random phrases off a list. He was actually executing a strategy, a step-by-step process for connection. First, you make contact. Then you narrow the focus. And finally, you identify the core problem. He was building a pathway to her, one sentence at a time.
And without one question, the whole story finally tumbled out. It was a package, a birthday gift she'd mailed to her grandson. And his birthday, it was tomorrow. The tracking information said it was delivered, but it wasn't there. She was absolutely terrified it was gone for good.
And in that instant, for Marco, everything just shifted. This wasn't call number 74 anymore. This wasn't about a tracking number or some logistical screw-up. This was about a grandmother's heart, her fear of letting her grandson down on his big day. It wasn't a lost package, it was a lost moment.
So now he understood the what and the deeply human why. He had connected with the heart of the problem.
But to actually solve it, to turn that connection into a real solution, he needed the facts, he needed the data, the details. And for that, his little guide offered one final, absolutely critical phrase.
What happened exactly? This was the ultimate key. It was an invitation to move past the fear and get to the facts. It basically gave her permission to give him the raw data he needed to start digging. The tracking number, the address, the date it was sent. He asked the question, and then he just listened.
And just like that, the dam broke. Out came the long string of numbers for the tracking code. She carefully spelled out the street name for her grandson's house. She told him the specific date she had sent it. All the puzzle pieces he so desperately needed were finally right there in front of him.
With those details, Marco's fingers just flew across the keyboard, and there it was. The package wasn't lost at all. Turns out a new driver had scanned it as delivered a little too early. It was sitting safe and sound at the local facility, scheduled to go out on the next morning's route. So Marco quickly put in a special request, arranging for it to be the very first stop of the day.
He explained it all as best he could, using a mix of simple Spanish words and just the universal language of a calm, reassuring voice. And from the other end of the line, there was no flood of words this time, just a long, shaky, audible sigh of pure relief. And then a single word that needs no translation at all. Gracias.
And here's the thing, the real takeaway. On his 74th call, Marco didn't just close a ticket. He dismantled a wall of fear and isolation. 5 simple phrases that were just collecting dust on a piece of paper became the tools he used to build a bridge of genuine human connection at the exact moment it mattered most.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What walls are standing in our own lives that could be totally transformed with just a few of the right words, offered at just the right time? If this story moved you or maybe made you think a little differently, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And make sure to follow the channel for more stories just like this.